Good evening. Welcome to Secretary of State Ruth Johnson. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to jump in right away with a general question, but I'll give you an opportunity to spread your wings a little bit tonight. Okay. What do you consider your largest accomplishment as Secretary of State in your last term?
Well, I think it's twofold because the job has two main distinct different responsibilities. One is consumer protection, customer service, and then the other, of course, are our elections. With our elections, in 2008, we had 102.54% of the eligible voters registered to vote in Michigan. And while we would like 100%, 102.54 isn't a good number for us. So we went to work cleaning up our qualified voter file. We've made things simpler and easy and better for customer service now. We have expressos.com. If you haven't seen it, please take a look. You can do everything online now. You don't have to come in. You simply print the receipt and carry it with you. We've done My Timeline, which means we have a store here in Grand Rapids, and we have 10 of our branch offices where you can actually make your appointment electronically and not have to wait in line.
Mm-hmm. Are there any areas of the Secretary of State's office that need to be improved? I'm sure there are, but if you were to prioritize them, what are they and how will you accomplish them?
Probably some of the things we have going right now. As far as fraud, we have a fair amount of fraud in Michigan for auto insurance. In July of last year, we found 16.1% of the paper insurances brought to our branch offices, and this is in over half the counties, we found some kind of fraud or that the insurance simply was not valid. The rest of us pay $220 million a year to cover those costs. So we simply have to stop fraud. And I'll tell you a quick story. In southeast Michigan, there was a car dealership that sold used cars and insurance. And the way people found out they didn't have insurance is when they had a need to collect for the insurance they paid for. Simply wasn't there. So we worked with law enforcement and closed that down. We have people in parking lots with small computers, laptops, and printers printing insurance for people. Don't buy it from them. If it sounds too good to be true, it absolutely is. But we're working with law enforcement and prosecutors, and we're fixing that problem right now.
Switching to elections, you've expressed concerns about a Democratic tool for online absentee ballot voter registration. If the technology exists to do that, why hasn't the state already done that on its own?
The state does have a way for you to go online on our site so that you can get an absentee ballot already. And unfortunately, the one that was put in never went through Department of Elections, which is unheard of. Over 4 different Secretary of States, there's nothing like this that's ever happened that has not gone for rigorous testing through our staff members. This one did not. It's something that they offered online for you to get your absentee ballot and turn it back in electronically, or to get to request your ballot. And what we found by looking at 1,500, because it was not a secured site, we honed in 197 and called the clerks every single place that those ballots were requested. And from that, we found 43 of them never got to the clerk. That means these people could be disenfranchised because the clerk did not get the request, so that means the voter will not get their absentee ballot. That is just wrong. We can't have it. So we've put out a warning to people, and I talked to 2 people today. They've waited 1 month. That is after we talked to make sure that we could get this straightened out with the parties that put this together. We had 2 meetings, 1 conference call, 1 email, and 1 a formal letter. They said they would fix it, and they're still waiting. So I would ask anyone that has used myabsentee.com to please take a look, because you may not be getting your absentee ballot because it did not go through the system. It just plain doesn't work in many cases. That's 43 out of 197 that the people did not get their ballot request put into their clerks.
Some counties in Michigan post a wealth of election-related information online. Candidates, results, campaign finance reports, some virtually none. What can the state of Michigan do, or your office, to help increase the amount of election information that's available online through local governments?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, John. Working with the legislature and the governor, we got something passed recently, and we already have the software in place. Local communities now, as a pilot to get started, can use the state system, so each one of you can find out who got money, how much, where they spent it, all the campaign finance disclosure from your own computer at home. Just urge your local officials to go ahead and join that system. There's no cost for it. We want to make it easier, faster, simpler. The more transparency, the better there is.
Should early voting be permitted in Michigan as it is in some states?
Michigan is a wonderful state, and one of the things that we do differently than most is that our local clerks conduct the elections. That means we work with 1,701 clerks. They're all in charge of conducting their own elections. 83 of those are county clerks, which assist. So it's a much different situation than some states. Over half our clerks work out of their homes. So rather than have early voting, which I'm sure you've seen on TV where you have lines that wrap around and can be hours of wait, I have a proposal for our legislature that simply says that anyone that would like to vote up to 45 days in advance may vote, no reason, absentee. Stops the lines and gives everyone 45 days to vote. It would also come with the same security and the same integrity as if someone came to the polls.
I can do a lot of things online, most of them through my phone.
Yes.
Why can't I vote online on November 4th?
Well, you know, we have some great universities in Michigan, and a lot of people got together at University of Michigan to watch a demonstration in Washington, D.C. for online voting. They were told this is absolutely secure, no one can breach it, no one will get into it, and I think that made it even more interesting for them. What they ended up doing, the students at U of M, is changing the vote totals and playing their fight song over the election machines. So we know that we're not ready for electronic voting right now. It's not secure. Simply, we don't know that we can protect the integrity of the vote.
Okay. Do you believe there's enough transparency in campaign finance laws?
You know, that's something that we're always working for, more transparency. We put teeth in the laws. Now, if there's a large violation, it's a felony, and the money then can be turned over because that money will be taken out of the account, or they'll be fined that amount. Before, it was just a misdemeanor, so now some of the worst cases are felonies, so you have to have teeth in them. We also made sure, working with the legislature, if there's robocalls they have to disclose. All of us want to know who's calling us at 10 o'clock at night for an ad. It's just simply difficult to have so many robocalls. They're so low cost that so many people use them. We need to even have more disclosure than we do. I disclose my own office holder's expense account. You know who I got it from, how much I got, and how much I spent. And I'm trying to be a good role model. We have the software in place. I would like to see a law that requires everyone to disclose that also. And then what we talked about before, local officials now can work with us. We'll let them use our technology so we can have the locals actually disclose what's happening. And it used to be if you had to have more than $20,000 that you collected to go online. We did work with the legislature and move that down to $5,000 so that you can see from the comfort of your home who's getting money from who and how they're spending it.
Your office, more than any in state government, faces Michigan citizens every day.
Yes.
Has the most contact with Michigan citizens. What's on your priority list for improving the experience that Michigan citizens have in dealing with your office?
We have over 50,000 people that walk through our doors every day, so that's one reason why we've taken over the Child Protection Registry, so that you can work with our office. We can make sure that your kids won't be getting ads about pornography, alcohol, drugs, or anything else like that. We want to make sure that your experience is faster, simpler, and easier. We've put a lot of self-service stations in. We'd like to do more. With ExpressSOS.com, we should only see you once every 8 years. Happy birthday. Stay with your family. Just print off the receipt and carry it with you. I think those kinds of things are so important. And then in our 10 busiest branches, which we'd like to expand, we have My Timeline. You simply make your appointment, call up, find out there's an hour wait, stay home, run errands, do whatever it is that you want. But you don't have to wait in line, and we'd like to expand that too. Customer service is so important because all of us have such busy lives.
The Secretary of State's offices used to have a larger footprint in Michigan. A number of offices have been closed. It's usually a contentious issue in the community. Are there any plans right now to further streamline operations, at least the physical footprint in Michigan?
Yeah, I've never made a decision to close any office and don't plan to at this point. We do have a lot of customers. We are trying to get people to use expressos.com. Having said that, you still have to come in every 8 years for a new photograph. There are still people that have special questions, and so we have 131 offices right now, and I believe that that's the number we need to adequately serve the people of Michigan.
I've heard from other people, I don't have a motorcycle or a snowmobile or a trailer, but I've heard from people, sportsmen especially, that the fees are considered very high as compared to other states, perhaps. Do you think the fee structure is fair in Michigan for the registration of secondary vehicles?
As far as secondary vehicles, you mean like motorcycles and things like that? Yeah, you know, Michigan ranks in the top half. Having said that, of course, anytime we can cut fees, it's great, but the money goes for our roads and our schools. So the question would be, where would you like to cut it?
Let me flip that question then. Since there are registration fees that are used for public purposes, does your office have an opportunity or a responsibility to provide more, say, road funding at the state level, whether through the vehicle registration fees or other forms of revenue?
Are you asking, should we raise the fees on registrations?
Right.
No.
Okay, thank you. Would have been a more direct question, right? Again, switching gears, Grand Rapids Mayor George Hartwell has called it, quote unquote, an injustice that young undocumented immigrants can't get Michigan driver's licenses. Why shouldn't we license such drivers?
Michigan law is very clear, and anyone that comes here legally, we do have a driver's license for them. It's a limited term. It lasts as long as their visa does, but the law is very clear. We cannot issue driver's licenses or state IDs to undocumented immigrants. Okay.
Should more be done to ensure that teenage and elderly drivers are not a threat to themselves or others?
You know, I'm very proud of our staff because Michigan was just given a very high honor of having one of the best driver's ed programs in the nation, and I think that's so important. Our drivers that cause the most problems, and I always ask the kids when I go to high school, do you think it's because boys aren't coordinated? Because it's the 16 to 24-year-old males that cause a great deal of our accidents, but of course it's judgment. And so I really like the driver's ed program we have. It is important that the kids take it, and probably one of the biggest issues we have right now is a lot of teenagers wait till they're 18 and don't get driver's ed. So we're working on that too with Big Sisters, Big Brothers, trying to make sure that people do take driver's ed that might not have the funds, and one of the driver's ed companies, and we've done a challenge for the others to help kids that might not have enough money. It's so important. For our elderly drivers, they are not one of our biggest problems for traffic accidents, but we do have a program if their doctor, the family member, their neighbor thinks that they're not able to drive anymore, that they can be retested to see. But I believe we should treat everybody the same.
What difference have you made personally in the operations of the Office of Secretary of State, whether it's internally and administratively, or again facing the public?
Well, I think more technology, and one of the things that we really got involved with, while it's not statutory, the staff has really embraced, and that's organ donation. We were 6th from the worst in the nation, with over 3,000 people on the waiting list, waiting for that life-saving phone call. It might have been the gift of sight, the gift of mobility. We did a full court press, and we worked together. It really has increased morale in our offices, and I'm glad to say that Michigan went from one of the worst to now we're about even with everyone else in the nation, and we're hoping to surpass that.
How do you get the message out for that? What's your mechanism for informing the public?
I think our methodology is almost the same for everything we do, which is put together the people that know, the people that are involved, the stakeholders, and we did that. And Dr. Tomatis from Grand Rapids, we had people from all over the state that donated their time, and I said, I don't have any money, but help me. They gave us 2 pages of recommendations, and we followed almost all of those, and it's getting the input from the public that has really helped us in most of the things that we've done, and that's one of them, and that's why we're doing so well now. We used electronic media, we put it on our all our most commonly used forms. When you used to go in, the first question was whether you'd had a brain seizure in the last 6 months. That's no longer the first question, it's the second one. The first one was, would you like to join the organ donor registry? So just about everything that we do, we try to get people involved. We have a business roundtable, how can we do it faster, better, and keep costs down, and we have people from all over the state that have donated their time with ideas. That saved about $450,000 and given us ideas on how we can be more effective and more efficient. We're working with Huntington Bank. We went to Meyer and asked them if they would work with us, and they said yes. We have 2 stores right now, one in Grand Rapids and one in Livonia, that you can go get bread, milk, fishing pole, and your tab while you're there. So we're trying to branch out. We just announced recently that we're working with AAA. You can go in to get your insurance, and they have 2 pilots going right now, and they said they're going to put it through all 31 offices, where they pay for the computer, they pay for the printer, and you can go on expresssos.com, print your receipt, hop in your car and go. So making things faster, easier is our goal, and working with the public that knows how we can do that and to be good partners with us is how we do it.
You mentioned a number of technological advancements that you're either in the works or that you foresee in the future. Do you have the funding for that? Do you have the staff competencies? How do you see the nature and culture of Secretary of State changing if those are the needs?
Yeah, we are down 25% staff from where we were a decade ago because of the cutbacks. I don't think there's a better time to be a Secretary of State when you have a governor like we do that understands the need for technology and understands how it works. So I believe that we will get what we need to be able to do it. He's been a great partner because he does understand technology more than any other governor in the United States right now, and technology really is what we need to do and where we need to head to try to make things better for people.
Next term, top priorities. Name 3 in order that you want to tackle.
Well, we want to stop fraud. We don't want people to pay for car insurance and find out they don't have it. So we'll continue to work with that. We've cut it from 16.1% to a little over 7%. That's not enough. We need to do more. As far as customer service, we have all these pilots, and I would like to develop those pilots and put them in more, if not all, of our branch offices. Having said that, when you have a branch office way up in the UP, you might not need to have that kind of thing. For our voters, we want to make sure that we get the qualified voter file completely cleaned up. It almost is now. We've taken off people that have died. We found 50,000 dead people on our rolls. We joined the Kansas Project. We found over 130,000 people that are registered in Michigan and at least one other state. Some people thought they could vote twice. That's how we found out. We're working with Candace Miller, who used to be the Secretary of State and a Congresswoman now from Macomb County. Should only be able to be registered in one state. And I would really like to see no reason absentee, as long as the integrity is there, just like we have when you go to the polls.
In that University of Michigan test that you witnessed, was that the end of the discussion about future voting online, or are you going to remain involved in discussions about what's possible
Yeah, I mean,
as security online, and that's an issue with store fraud, and there's a lot of headlines about the leak of personal information and things like that, but do you foresee a day when people will be able to vote through online means?
Technology changes so much, so we do continue to monitor it, but it would have to be proven to be secure. Lending institutions build a lot of money into knowing that they are going to be cheated, it is going to be abused, it is going to be hacked into somehow. We can't do that for democracy. Every vote counts. We have elections that are won by less than a handful of votes all over the state every time we have one, so I think it's so important to make sure we have integrity in our elections. So we'll continue to monitor it, but I don't think we're really at any point right now where you would be able to vote online. And know that you have that integrity, that you know your vote counts, that you won't be disenfranchised because somebody else votes that shouldn't have. And we want to also encourage as many people as we can to register, and our staff did take #1, we just got the news 2 weeks ago, in the nation for getting people registered to vote at our offices.
As someone who stays up late on election night, and many other people in this room do as well, invariably there are communities that have a difficult time pulling the results together in a timely fashion, sometimes goes into the next day. What does your office do to support those communities, either in training or election night help, so that this, the validity of the results is secure and that it's in a timely fashion?
Well, we have 34 people for the Bureau of Elections for the state of Michigan, 1,701 clerks. Of course, training is number one. We've done the first time ever we do training online. You can go on YouTube and look at 2 to 5 minute clips on what you need to know. The clerks helped us write whatever the problems that they found or the challenges. They helped write the script, so we had all those put in. We have a virtual university to train the poll workers as well as the clerks and anyone that works in elections. And I think that is really the most important thing, that they know how to do it. We used to have people that used to close the bags, and it's easy to think that you would just put it in the holes on the zippers after all the ballots are in it. But those can't be counted then because somebody could get into them. So we found that if we give them little plastic covers to go over the zippers, that helps. Put it online so they can see where to seal them. Those kinds of things always help. And of course, even if we give you the tally, which we get from the locals, it is not for 2 weeks. Not etched in stone. It takes 2 weeks. The Board of Canvassers has a lot of work to do, and in the county I've lived in, they named one person to be the prosecutor, and they were not. They named another person that won as county commissioner, and they were not. So really, those results are not really, you can't really go by them for 2 weeks. But yes, we do help with training, and we do help with letting people know how to go through all the steps that they need to by using YouTube and a virtual university.
There are isolated incidences, and this came up in the presidential election, of course, when voter turnout's much higher. One of long lines to vote, the inability to get in to vote, things of that nature. Do you think that's been adequately addressed since the presidential election?
Since the presidential election, we did convene a group of clerks, and they used their best practices with clerks that maybe had a little bit more of a challenge. We did have 4 counties that had 2 pages both sides, and we did have people waiting as long as 20 minutes to vote to look at all of it. So we do have a site called MVIC, Michigan Voter Information Center. We also have it so you can use it on your iPhone now. You can go in and look at your ballot style. We have over 5,000 ballot styles in this state. You need to take a look at it ahead of time so you know how you're going to vote. We've worked with our libraries, and we have Express SOS Connect, where you can also get all your services, but you can go on and look at your ballot so you know what you'll be voting on. I think most of the time that we take to vote usually is gathering information, so we think that will be helpful too. Getting the word out, go on Michigan Voter Information Center is so important for all of us. It tells you who your clerk is, you can confirm where you vote, that you are registered. All those things can be done. And then we also did some technology changes, so when you change your driver's license or your state ID, your voter registration follows you, because if you move to Traverse City, you can't go up there and vote in their elections because it's so many different ballot styles. That's not your ballot if you didn't change. So we've done that too to make it faster, easier, and better. We have electronic poll books in 93% of the precincts now, which really helps. They just pull your driver's license through, your state ID, and before we had those, we found over 1,300 dead people that had voted, but of course it was just a clerical error. Those won't happen anymore either, which also makes it better, easier, and faster to vote.
With that many different kinds of ballots, and I imagine optical scanning systems and vendors and all that thing, is there a cause or an opportunity to streamline or get uniformity in the election voting process in the state of Michigan? Is there any efficiencies to be gained there, or at least from a voter education standpoint, so that eliminate some of that confusion both in the voters and maybe clerk's offices as well?
Are you saying, John, because there's 4 different machines in the state?
Yeah, and the different, you mentioned the number, the variety of ballots and ballot formats and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, if you're in Grand Rapids, you're going to be voting for your school board here. You can't very well do that if you live someplace else, right? And your county commissioner, and you have city, township people. So I think that's okay. It is a little harder, there's no doubt, but I like local control. Who's more accountable than your local clerk? And I think by them, they just got an award for being the 6th best in the nation for administration. So it is more difficult, but there is more accountability, and I like that. We are going to be looking at some new machines not too long from now, and we're getting things set in place well in advance. And we have a group of clerks that will be giving us their ideas on how we should do it to make it more efficient and more streamlined, and that will be the use of the machines.
Well, Secretary, I've reached the end of my questions. We have a few minutes left, so if there's anything that we missed or topics that you were prepared to speak about, feel free.
Well, I'd just like to say that I'm sure the people here, you do take the time to vote. Please urge others to. While we have taken first place in the nation for getting people registered at the Secretary of State's office, it's unfortunate that only about half the people usually vote in an election. And our last election, we were in the third best since 1968, but it's still not good enough. So if you can urge your neighbors and your friends to please find out about what the issues are and vote, I would really appreciate it. And if you are a person that has served this country in the military and you've been honorably discharged, you can go to any one of our Secretary of State's office and get in large red letters a designation that says veteran. And that really helps to get some of the discounts that people have earned and deserve. And if you're one of those people that work at a bank or a library or any place, a grocery store, you look at somebody's license, if you see veteran on their driver's license, please take a moment to thank them.
Well, thank you very much for coming out tonight, Secretary of State. Ruth Johnson, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate it.